If you find yourself overthinking about how to do everything the right way and you're tired of delaying tasks or taking action because it all just feels too overwhelming, then you are in the right place. Perfecting Imperfectionism invites you to move past overthinking and self-doubt, declutter your mind, and create a life that reflects who you really are. I'm Laura Meredith, and I'm a certified professional coach and ambitious professional. My mission is to show you the power of embracing imperfectionism so you too can create a career and life you love. Let's start perfecting imperfectionism. Hello and welcome back to Perfecting Imperfectionism. I'm your host, Laura Meredith, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. I want to quickly acknowledge that this is a shorter episode this week. And this is because I am intentionally pausing and trying to prevent myself from stepping back into old habits. And I will talk about that a little bit. But what I really want to highlight for you is that this is an intentional pause. And a couple of weeks ago, I hosted an episode called Procrastination, the Perfectionist Pause. And that is an unintentional pause. And this episode is called This Perfectionist Pause because this is an intentional one. And I'm the perfectionist who is intending to pause. So there are reasons why we do pause or procrastinate or spend time not doing things that we're unaware of, but that doesn't mean that inherently pausing and stopping ourselves from working too hard or hustling or doing the grind is a bad thing. So that's what I'm doing right now, because this week I realized I was getting frustrated with myself for not knowing what my next big goal should be. And that frustration that I was feeling, that anxiety, that fear, was actually a signal to me that I needed to slow down rather than to speed up and figure it out, which is what I would normally do. And I just thought this would be a great topic to talk about on the podcast, because I'm sure this is something that many perfectionists face. And I also thought it was a great topic I could talk about quickly and not dive into a larger episode and go super deep on it. But if it's something that's interesting, I absolutely can go into this deeper at a later time. But this week I'm choosing me. And that looks like putting just a little bit less effort into the podcast, not worrying about it being the perfect length or as long as I have been doing it, and trying just a shorter episode length. So the first thing that I want to talk about with you is naming the pattern. So the perfectionist instinct is to always chase the next milestone. Sometimes, actually most of the time for me and my journey, it's looked like having the next 3 goals planned out while I'm still working on one goal. And I have bigger ideas of what I want to accomplish in my business and in my life, but I'm talking about those really tangible things that we are working toward. Like for me, it was this year, I wanted to finish up my required coaching hours to be eligible to sit for the Associate Certified Coach exam with the International Coaching Federation, otherwise known as the ACC. So this is a credential that coaches get. So I wanted to wrap up my hours, which I did. I wanted to study for the exam, which I did. I wanted to sit for the exam and pass the exam, which I did. I wanted to launch my podcast, and I also wanted to take time to learn how to rest and decompress and take some time and space just to move away from the burnout that I had put myself through over the past few years. And I did all of those things. And as soon as I finished my exam, I was really excited. I was really proud. I intentionally wanted to slow down and not think about the next thing. I found myself not being super excited about it right away after I finished. I think I was just really, really tired. So I honored that fatigue. And then the next day it really started to sink in. And instead of just being like, yeah, that's exciting. Now, how am I going to use this momentum? I told myself, okay, we're going to sit in this and we're going to enjoy it. So for a few days, I was really, really leaning into celebrating this accomplishment. And that was great. And then as soon as I started to feel like I had lean into that celebration. I felt really fulfilled in that celebration, really acknowledged both by others, by myself, by the ICF. Thank you, ICF, for giving me this credential. I noticed that I was frustrated, or starting to feel frustrated, that I didn't have another goal. And even though I slowed down to celebrate and I was really intentional about it, and I will continue to celebrate this accomplishment when it comes up for me and lean into that celebration, because it wasn't a really long time coming. I spent over a year really intentionally working on that goal. I will continue to celebrate it when given the chance. However, my immediate celebration after the moment I felt was done. And then I was starting to feel frustrated that I didn't know what was next. And the discomfort of not knowing what's next can feel like failure to a perfectionist, because it feels like I'm aimless. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. But really, not knowing what I'm doing specifically next is giving me the space to explore more and be open to more possibilities, rather than rushing, panic deciding on what I'm going to do next and then moving toward that. And the reframe that I'm choosing to do right now is to pause, because pausing is not falling behind. I'm creating space. I'm creating energy. I'm stopping the bad behavior. I'm nipping it in the bud, the frustration that I'm feeling. And this week, I'm allowing myself to feel those feelings. And that moves me into the real pause. Like, this is that intentional pause that I am taking. And maybe it's going to last a little bit longer than a week. I don't know. I'm going to start with a week and I'll see how I feel next week. And I intend to keep doing the podcast, but maybe I'll do another quicker episode. That would be great. I don't know. But there are two categories I'm breaking this pause into. So there's tangible things and then there's intangible. So I'll start with the tangible. So I am taking this pause, and during this time, I am going to work on some actual like cleaning and tidying and resetting the house. So instead of like a spring cleaning, I'm going to do some fall cleaning. I'm going to do a little reset. I'm going to try to do some purging and organizing of things. I'm going to decorate for spooky season, because I do love Halloween and fall. Fall is my favorite season, and we have some beautiful weather that's been happening here in Chicago. So I'm going to be going for walks and embracing the weather and just really trying to enjoy this phase that I'm in right now without moving to the next thing. I do have obligations to my business still. I do have work that I'm continuing to do, but instead of sitting at my desk from my 9 to 5 and working on my business and working on the podcast and focusing on like building and growing, I'm taking space. I'm just like, if I don't have something on the calendar, if it's not for the podcast or an obligation to a client or a colleague or an agreed upon thing, I'm not doing it. I'm taking that space for me. So I'm using that time to do these other things. So those tangible things, the cleaning, the resetting, the organizing, the purging, and preparing for spooky season. The intangible things that I'm doing, and I've touched on these a little bit because this is really where the juicy work comes in, is that I'm going to be sitting with the feelings of being frustrated. And I'm going to get curious with myself, and I'll do a little bit of coaching. I love to self-coach. I'll also do a little bit of like inner child work and talking to younger versions of me to try to figure out like what little Laura is feeling, what she is experiencing, what she needs, and trying to nourish that part of myself. I'm going to be reflecting on all of the things that I've done, not just this year in 2025, not just over the past year, but just in my life and in my career, like looking at the amazing things that I've done and how much I've grown and how much I've learned. And as a result, this is going to create space for joy and for light and love and energy. And I am really excited to spend another intentional period resetting and resting, just like I did when I left my full-time corporate role. I just want to make this like quick connection here is that I'm doing this reset both in my outer world, like my physical environment with the cleaning and the decorating and the decluttering. And I want that to mirror the inner reset too, because I'm just like, I'm spending time sorting through the feelings that I'm having, the old rules that I got built up inside of me that tell me that I should be frustrated that I'm not doing more right now and that I should be setting up a new goal for myself and starting it right away, like into panic mode. So I'm cleaning house, cleaning inner house, getting curious with house, inner and outer, like what am I keeping? What am I getting rid of? How am I reframing things? Adding some decorations, some love. I'm going to fill the soul. Crafting. Oh, I'm so excited to craft. This is one that's a soul filler. Like it's fun because it's physical and it's going to be like aesthetically wonderful for me to look at in my space, but it also is fun because it's something that I'm making and it makes me feel good to do this thing, and it's like this beautiful thing that I've created and I can look at it and it's tangible, but it's also fun to like figure something out, and it's like a juicy problem to solve that isn't like the only real value that it has is my joy, is like what it looks like and the fun that I get from it. And that is an area where I'm really excited to intentionally fill my cup. And so I'm just doing these tangible and intangible, cleaning house and redesigning and reorganizing house. And I'm just really excited to spend a little bit of time on it. And I don't think it's going to take me a really long time. I think I did a lot of really beautiful work in May to just slow down and to just be. And I think ever since I started to get back into a typical schedule of working, I've continued that curiosity journey, and I haven't allowed myself to add more goals. And I've done course corrections throughout the whole summer with myself, and it's been one of my favorite summers in the past 5 years. And I'm really, really pleased with how I've spent my time. And I'm excited to give myself a little bit more time to just chill and pause intentionally. And as I'm talking about this more, maybe I'll do this for the rest of September. I don't know. That's only 2.5 more weeks. Like, I can do that. I can give that to myself. And the reason why this matters is because these check-ins that we do with ourselves, these pauses that sometimes are bigger or smaller, like my first one this year was a full month. This one is a week to 3 weeks tops. I don't know. I've had a day or two or a weekend that I've given myself over the summer, and it prevents burnout. These pauses prevent burnout. They prevent resentment. They prevent us from being addicted to stress and being addicted to arbitrary goals and achievement. And it really allows us to integrate what we've already achieved instead of immediately discounting it and letting those achievements be baked into our habits that we're building as well. And it's kind of like we're creating more fertile soil, a more fertile ground that can nourish and create new fulfilling ideas and goals to emerge, and will allow us to be present with ourselves, with those who we love, with our colleagues, with our work, and just be really intentional about everything that we're doing. I'm learning that intentionality is so crucial to the success of us as humans. And without being intentional, without pausing, without giving us this nourishment, we risk building upon exhaustion and stress and burnout, creating unstable, rocky foundations instead of inspiration, instead of health, instead of joy, instead of creativity, instead of curating a space where our love and our light can blossom. And I want to encourage you to join me in a pause to practice, or a practice pause. And it doesn't have to be a full week. You don't have to take time off work. It can even be, as we perfectionists, like we don't have to do the pause exactly right. Even if we could find ourselves 5 minutes or 10 minutes, just a moment to practice pausing. So I invite you to identify one area in your life that feels cluttered. It could be a physical environment. It could be emotional. It could be mental. What energetic. It could be any area of your life. And take one simple step to clear it. So what does that look like? Is it spending 5 minutes tidying up a space? 5 minutes slowing down, closing your eyes and listening to your favorite song? Or is it asking yourself what you're feeling? Is it journaling? One sentence? What is it? What can you do to have an intentional pause to help you just untangle internal dialogue and feelings or physical things? And then celebrate not doing more, but by doing less with intention. So I want to give this to you in a simple reflection prompt. Where in your life could you give yourself permission to pause this week? For how long? And what might it create space for? To recap, pausing is not a setback. It's a part of growth. It is necessary for us to build stable, lasting foundation and nutrient-rich soil for us to blossom and to thrive. And I encourage you to find your own version of a fall refresh if this resonates with you. And next week, we are going to get back into talking about building your confidence and dismantling perfectionism head on. Maybe it'll be a shorter episode, maybe it won't. But for this week, just give yourself this gift of space. And there will be time to dive into a new goal with motivation, with momentum, with excitement, with passion. But give yourself the gift of space. So thanks for tuning in to Perfecting Imperfectionism. I'm Laura Meredith, and I will check in with you next week. Thank you for listening to Perfecting Imperfectionism. Tune in each week for a new episode where we will explore challenges that overt and covert perfectionists face. For more information on how to work with me, or if you want customized one-on-one support, head to lauracoaches.com to book your complimentary consultation with me, where you'll learn more about yourself, your goals, and the steps you need to take to achieve them. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Always consult a qualified professional to address your specific concerns.